by film.
Five,
Stand by music.
four,
Stand by announce.
3, 2, 1.
And fade up.
Sneaky little Albertses.
Spider-Man, hero or menace?
Deer and Dugu.
Dobby the house elf.
Who holds sway over the 5 points?
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
This is my family.
There's a hole in this cake.
You concur?
I'm a bloody island. I'm bloody Ibiza.
How about new, you crazy Dutch bastard?
Okay, cool. All right, well, welcome everyone to a brand new episode of 20 Years, 4 Beers. We are a podcast dedicated to rewatching movies from 2 decades ago while simultaneously enjoying a minimum of 4 modern beers. My name is Steve, and this is my big brother,
Tim.
And we are coming to you live on tape from Minneapolis, Minnesota. So we have just finished watching and recording our episode on Signs.
It's time for an ass whooping.
So go check that one out. And as usual, we sit together afterwards and discuss another film over another beer. So we refer to these as our happy hour episodes.
Hey, you guys. Happy hour is from 4 to 6.
During this happy hour, we will be talking about 2002's animated classic, Spirited Away. I guess I'll, enunciate. Spirited Away is the story of a young girl named Chihiro, whose family is moving into the suburbs against her will. Near the end of their journey, the family makes an unexpected stop at an abandoned theme park, and Chihiro wanders into a world ruled by spirits, witches, and even dragons. She must find a way to be a part of this new world while also finding a way out and back to her parents and the world she left behind. The film is written and directed by, is it Hayao Miyazaki?
Yep.
There you go. And stars the voice talents in English of Dave Chase, Jason Marsden, Suzanne Pleshette, Susan Egan, David Ogden Stiers, Lauren Holly, Michael Chiklis, and John Ratzenberger. So there you go. Our first segment, as usual, is Drinking Buddies, where we present the 4 beers that we had, 2 for each of us, since we watched these separately, and give our expert drinking ratings. Tim, why don't you take us away on your 2?
Come on, not my beer.
This time of year, I love when I drive over to Wisconsin and get stocked up for the football season to come.
Go Vikings.
As a Packer fan. And came back with a whole bunch of New Glarus. So I had their Scream double IPA.
Oh, is it out?
Oh, it is.
Oh, I got to travel to Wisconsin.
It's worth the trip.
All right.
4.25 for me.
That's outstanding.
I love it. Love the Scream. I got 2 4-packs. Because I'm like, yep, I'm going to
I know what I'm doing
caress
tomorrow.
this. There you go. And then I followed that up with the Staghorn Oktoberfest, which is such a phenomenal...
It's actually one of my few that I really enjoy. Yep.
Right? It's so good. It's a 4 for me. It's just a classic, solid Oktoberfest for me. So yeah, it was a theme of sorts of just, I'm staying on New Glarus, good time of year, and it helped me get through this film. So
it's dark time.
They did. What'd you have?
Well, I went with ones I hadn't had before. So Great Notion Brewing Company out of Portland, Oregon. Their Bicycle Day Sour. This could have and almost should have, if I had known about it, been a strange brew. I don't even know what the flavors in it, but it smelled like berry, tasted tropical, and poured, it was dark green.
What?
Yeah. It was really weird.
That does sound weird.
And yet, it was very odd, but really delicious. I had a 4.25 out of 5. Similar to that sour in the last episode, it got better and better and better as I went. Like, I thought I would not finish it as I first started it. And I was like, wait a minute here. Like, once it hits your lips, it's so good.
It's so good.
Yeah, it was a 4.25 out of 5. And then I went to from Moore Brewing Company out of Huntley, Illinois. They're More to This Life lager. A very basic lager.
Just a
and
basic
while
bitch
I have
beer.
had many that are more flavorful and would recommend over it, I would ultimately, say talking about a lager here.
Sure.
We're talking about a lager.
Yeah.
So I had a 3.25 out of 5. And I am always surprised to see when breweries release and distribute lagers.
Yeah.
Or pilsners. Like, this is a style that needs to be released across state lines. I mean, they got me to spend money on it, but
Right.
yeah, it was like 325. I just don't seek them out.
And
I don't
like,
know anybody in beer circles is like, you know what I love? A classic lager.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get it from every brewery that I can get it from. So, I mean, it just was like, it was fine. It was good.
That's
finished
kind of the area of all the macro breweries of the U.S. where you got Coors, other ones. That's all I need to get. I don't need to have my craft brewery area
Yeah.
or local option brewing this crap.
Yeah,
Like,
yep.
no, I don't want that.
Yep.
So,
And then we are also having a
number 12.
drink. Yes, here. Not a beer, but we are having a drink. We have not shared a cider. We have had
That's
ciders
true.
in our on
Separate
our
ones.
own, but not
Happy
together.
hours. Yeah, we have number 12 cider out of Minneapolis. They're Contraband dry hopped cider. And it's a nice 4 for me. I like this. And I'm always impressed with number 12.
Yep.
To be honest,
They've gotten
they
better and better.
are a solid cider house. And yeah, it's got a nice little hop profile to it, but not where it changes it too much. And it's
It's not a bite.
no,
Right.
it's a really good cider.
I like it a lot. I
Yep.
mean, it's I have a 4 to 4.25 on this one as well from a cider standpoint. Really good balance.
Yeah.
On this one. So I agree. All right, so our next segment then is the social network,
If you guys were the inventors of Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook.
where we take a look back at the critical and fan reception from 20 years ago. Tim took a look at this, and I'll be very curious because I have a feeling that Tim and I are going to differ from both family who have talked about this movie and also critics who have talked about this movie.
Without a doubt.
Yes, so go ahead.
It is probably, I think, surprisingly, the highest rated one we've seen on IMDb. It's an 8.6 out of 10. Michael Sragow of the Baltimore Sun wrote, watching the Japanese cartoon epic Spirited Away is like strolling into Alice's Wonderland and seeing every wonder sprout up as if for the first time. Patrick Peters of Empire Magazine wrote, despite a dip midway through, this is a captivating fantasy that sets a new benchmark for animation. And Big Man Raj, 4 out of 4, not surprising. He loves Miyazaki, but wrote, Miyazaki's drawing style, which descends from the classical Japanese graphic artist, is a pleasure to behold with its subtle use of colors, clear lines, rich detail, and its realistic depiction of fantastical elements. It is the best animated film of recent years. As you shake your head.
Clear lines, that's the best you can do.
Yeah.
Hey, they drew between the lines.
Yeah.
Hey, look at that.
And Academy Awards that year, it for the second time, first one being Shrek, but it was the second winner of the Justin created the Best Animated Feature Oscar, and it beat out Ice Age, Lilo and Stitch, which we've covered, Spirit, Stallion of the Cimarron, and Treasure Planet.
So, we're going to get into this. I don't want to have like a crap fest on this. We had to like bring this back a little bit.
I do.
Yeah. All right. So our next segment then is our reactions segment that we now call Spotlight,
They knew, and they let it happen.
where we highlight and discuss our top takeaways of any kind from rewatching the film.
Brace yourself!
I guess since Tim's like really itching to shit on
Well,
this
I never
movie,
saw it before this week.
I'm going to start.
Please do.
Because I had seen it before, right? So it was like it had been a while, and about what was it
It was June.
right? So we were gonna do this in June, and we decided instead to do Fifth Element,
Because we were like, LA Confidential,
Yeah, it
25
made sense,
years.
right?
Let's do another happy hour from 25 years. Okay.
right? And I had started this movie again at that time, and I was sitting there about 15, 20 minutes in being like, what have I gotten myself into? Like Arrested Development, right? I've made a terrible mistake. And I was like, I gotta step away from this, because I was like, I had seen this years ago and remembered enjoying it. So I had to walk away from it.
Yep.
And so then I watched it again, obviously this week, and boy, I did not like it at all. And so I know both of us are on the same page on this. So I will start with the good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Miyazaki does a masterful job in all of his films of layering weird elements one after the other. All of his films do this. Like there's no. You can watch Howl's Moving Castle. You can watch My Neighbor Totoro. It doesn't matter. They all have weird elements. It's a style of Japanese animation. It is not American. So I have to check that off my brain when I go into this movie.
Sure.
It's not fair to compare to what we're used to in the A to Z, right? Storytelling when you watch those films. Because it's just not the same expectation. Not only that, it wasn't made for American audiences. This is made for Japanese audiences that was then dubbed, which is why we couldn't figure out when the hell to cover this movie, because for the last year we've debated on when this was released. Yes. So obviously there's a cultural difference here, but Miyazaki has a really great, unique style that is unmistakable, and I have to give props to any filmmaker who has an unmistakable style. That's my first reaction.
I do think it's important before we get into the issues. Is I agree. I've only seen this and Princess Mononoke.
Sure.
For Studio Ghibli animation films.
Right.
And they're at least the two of them, but even seeing clips of others or like details of, the ones you mentioned, their animation is top notch.
Yes.
So it is incredible detail. That old school, hand drawn.
Yeah, they can paint between the lines.
That's true, they can. The depth of it, and I imagine if you were to pause this and look at the surrounding area and like the depth of it, you'd be shocked at just how much they put together.
Yeah.
So I do feel like it is warranted that it won Best Animated Feature.
Now, if you compare them to the rest, and I love Lilo and Stitch, but I can understand at the time why it won.
Yes.
Best Animated Feature.
Yes.
And he had been around for quite some time too. It was a bit of an honorary thing too.
And people kind of refer to him, even though he doesn't like it, as the, Japanese version of Walt Disney in terms of a game changer and that style from that culture.
Sure. He's actually the Japanese Don Bluth, but that's okay.
I would go with that.
Cha-cha-cha.
That's a good one. That's a good take. Anyway. So I think it's important to say up front, great. Hereafter is nonstop shitting on this awful movie. So just FYI. At least for me.
Should I go then?
Please do.
All right. So, all right. This does seem to be a throw anything at the wall to see if it sticks type of film. Like, you want heads bouncing? Done. A fat radish.
3 of them?
Yeah, a fat radish spirit. Yup. Giant headed witch who can fly and chain smokes like a 1970s call girl. F yeah. A random giant baby. Why the hell not? Paper that can apparently think, talk, and interact. At this point, it makes more sense than anything else. That was, to me, as I was watching it, there was no, short of the central understanding that this girl is trying to get back to, save her family and get back to the world she was coming from. That storyline was there. There was an understanding that was happening.
Yep.
Short of that, nothing made sense.
Nope.
There is nothing in this movie that made any, semblance of sense. And, I already mentioned I started it and I went away from it, right? And so rewatching it, I was about half hour in this time, and I was like, oh, I'm feeling like I'm going to like this better this time, right? Mm-hmm. I had wrapped my head around it. Maybe I wasn't in the mood the first time around, right?
Yep.
And then that stopped. About, half hour, 45 minutes in, I was like, no, this does not get any better.
Nope.
It just felt like throw everything at the wall, and if it sticks, we'll just put it in there and we'll animate around it.
Yep.
So I didn't love that. There's no central story.
I have never stopped a movie in my entire life. I've sat through.
You didn't finish this?
No, I did.
Okay,
I did.
good.
To be clear.
Otherwise, we have to stop.
No.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
To be clear, I would have stopped half an hour in.
Yeah.
If we weren't watching it for this.
Yeah, I would have been done.
Because.
Yeah, my son wanted to watch with me. I was like, you know what, buddy? Why don't you go watch some YouTube instead?
Go paint the wall and watch it dry, and you will have more intrigue than this. How do you think Miyazaki described his overall vision to the animators? Do you think he just used a Mad Libs guide while high on peyote? Because I agree. Watching it was every second of what is happening?
Yeah.
And I've seen weird stuff. You and I have watched, like, I think of something like a Mulholland Drive or, well, any David Lynch movie, but stuff that you're like, I get there's something happening and it's worth the payoff, if you will, but it's worth the intrigue. Every second was maddening, and I hated this movie start to finish. And what I also found really jarring was the music was really jarring at times. Like the scene where she's getting a train ticket and like the piano music is swelling or she's eating these rice things from Haku, not to be confused with haiku, but haiku, and breaking down over the trauma she's experiencing. And like the music is swelling and piano. It was like, what is happening? Not just like a storyline, but what emotion are you trying to have me experience? That I'm somehow trying to feel lighthearted. It just, I don't know what they were going for, and I've got a few other thoughts. But that was, I agree, totally agree. I was like watching it, being like just waiting for something to click.
Yeah,
where I could be like, okay, and it's 2 hours long.
Yeah,
what a freaking joke that is. Like maybe an hour and a half in, feeling like I might get something. Here's your message. Nope, not at all.
The music is a distracting mess. It is,
right?
It's a combination of cheesy video game music and some halfway decent orchestrations. There are some points where it's actually pretty decent. You know, in the case of Signs, we talked about with James Newton Howard, used classic suspense films to help us get in the mood.
Yes.
In the case of Spirited Away, I think we get random piano strikes and almost always have off-putting music. It's very disappointing.
Yes.
Like, it made me appreciate Zelda. Like, it was just like these, like you're walking around in Zelda and you're like, ding, ding, these random like piano strikes. And you're like, right, that's what it is.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, there's just, like, I can understand English voiceovers being slightly odd, although the voice talents are not the problem with this whatsoever at all. That's not an excuse for the music.
No.
Like, the music is just flat out stupid in this.
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense along the way.
Yes.
Like, a score is supposed to, like, help you attach to this movie and really, you know, at any moment, there was no moment where any of the score sort of brought you in.
Yes.
Awful. Sorry, what, yeah.
Well, I had the luxury in some ways of my wife still dealing with the last days of COVID.
Yeah.
Earlier this week. And I was like, I'm going to watch this movie because you're going to hate it. So you're in isolation. I'll watch it alone. And I say that because yesterday we were walking the dog and I said, let me tell you about this movie. And I said, prepare yourself. Everything I say will feel like I am making up gibberish.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So bear with me. And about like 10 seconds in, she's like, I don't want to hear anymore. And it was just like, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, it's just awful.
Yeah.
So
can we talk politics instead?
Yeah, just like anything else. But one thing that actually, to be somewhat serious, we've talked about in different episodes of the pod where one of the creators of Lost said he learned the hard way from that show that there's a large but important difference between something that could be simple but very different is confusion and mystery.
Yeah. Lindelof?
Yes.
Yeah.
And he worked differently when he did Watchmen in terms of having a mystery and intrigue and not be just confusion. And that the audience, what he learned was, will eventually become angry or frustrated if you rely too much on confusion instead of mystery. Because they want answers. They want something. And I thought about that every second of this entire movie. Like, what the flip flying F is going on? And not in a good and intriguing way, but it was like confusion after confusion.
Yeah.
Like I said, not...
Yeah, like the gold ghost or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Like you mentioned the paper things, like these paper cutouts, oh, they're birds. No, they're not the paper. They're attacking this water dragon, but then one somehow doesn't and attaches to her. And again, I say this as a listener, if you're like, we're not making this up.
Yeah.
We're not just having a stream of consciousness.
A ripped up piece of paper bird.
But then it lets her in
our hero. Yeah.
to this like room that she can't get. And I was like, this is so dumb. Or these soot balls. Like it just.
I didn't even mind even any of that. I was like, that's fine. What the first half, I was like, okay, world build weird.
Sure.
If you world
You have to
build
pay
weird
off-
and
yes.
you pay off, it's
Yes.
like, okay, cool. But there's no payoff, so then
Nope.
it was just all weird.
Yes, I agree. Once I realized half an hour or half into it, like, oh, there's no payoff to this.
Yeah.
I cannot believe this guy. But I was hoping so much for the confusion to just be like a mystery thing or like some allegory or mystery. Okay. And it just ended. I was like, you got to be shitting me. This one, again, I get it from the animation. And I think maybe going into it expecting
That's the thing.
classic.
If you haven't watched it, yeah.
and the regard that people
I
have.
friends, we have family who are like, oh
Yes.
my God, it's the greatest film. I love that film.
So I was expecting something good.
But even then, I don't recall loving this movie the first time around, but I also am like, I wonder how much of it is like, are we supposed to love it? Like, is it one of those where you're like, this is a movie that everyone loves, so I'm supposed to love it for an artistic reason, right? Like, maybe the confusion is on purpose. Like, maybe she's supposed
Sure.
It's like this girl growing up and understanding, like, I kept thinking about Inside Out, right? This girl
Totally.
who moves to San Francisco and has to deal with it in her own way.
Yes.
So maybe this is another version of that, where she's dealing with this, like, growing up thing in her own way. But there is no payoff. And if you're relying on me to fill in the blank, you have failed horribly.
And I
You are a movie that needs to fill in the blank because that's what I paid you to do.
Yes.
And that's what I kept coming back to. I was like, Inside Out delivered
Yes.
on that same style of the same understanding, and this did not deliver.
And I respect the fact that when I went to it thinking there may be cultural differences in
100%.
terms of I don't know the stories, backgrounds, what these mean for different cultures in
Right.
Japan. Like, great. That being said, as a movie-going experience, you cannot, I think, dismiss the reality of what is the journey?
Right.
What is the outcome that you want to have? Like, Pan's Labyrinth was one thing I also thought about was
Yes.
that's in Spanish, and Guillermo del Toro, who is known for weird stuff going down, he is so fantastic at having at least it worth it when something Shape of Water, a fish creature hangs out and fornicates with a deaf woman. Like, don't tell me we haven't seen weird stuff.
I recently rewatched that movie, and actually it really
It
good.
holds
But
up. It's so good. Like, it's what is the payoff?
Yep.
And for this payoff to be, oh, she comes out of it and gets back in the car, and it's like, oh, I'm not scared about this new world. I had to sit through 2 hours of this coming of age bullshit where nothing made sense.
Right. Also, they apparently, like, everything was overgrown. How long were they gone?
Yes.
There was no understanding of, were they gone for weeks? Were they gone for... Everything was overgrown around them. The car was overgrown.
Yes.
And they just drive off like, we're good to go.
So
There's no payoff whatsoever.
what I thought about also was mentioning Fifth Element, ironically, was in that episode I remember talking about how much I love when movies create crazy worlds and fill them with interesting characters.
Yeah.
And they just swing for the fences.
Yeah.
Apparently, I have found the exception to that rule because I could not stand anything about this movie.
Sure.
I was irritated from frame one. The parents, I get like the whole thing you want to have like the dismissive type of like oblivious parents, but they were so annoying that then they come back like, oh, thanks for saving us, but we don't know what happened, and we're just gonna leave here. And it just the crazy insanity of what happening in this movie was, again, the exception to the rule. I could not wait for it to be done. When I paused it to go to the bathroom, I was like, I have 30 minutes left.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
my
That's one of the moment where I was like,
God.
I kind of wish I had 7 beers here. This isn't 20 years 4 beers. It's like 20 years
Yes.
7. And maybe about a half a pound of weed.
Yes. Ugh.
So, do you have any other final?
I do.
Okay. Well, my last thing is actually something. One thing is universal, though. Men worldwide apparently would rather plow through the wrong route, put their family in danger, and stubbornly steal food rather than admit a possible wrong turn while driving. there are some things that are universal, and that is one where it's like, just keep going. No, this is the right way. We'll get there. We'll
flying
get there.
through the woods.
He's just going through everything. And I want to like crap on it, and they're like, nah, I might just be like, no, I'm going to get there.
Yep.
Oh, our house is right up there.
Yep.
I don't care. I'm going the long way, and this is the right way.
Don't you question my pride, woman. Yes, I agree. So
anyway, I didn't even want to keep crapping on it because I'm just like,
I do. I do.
Going.
And here's what I want to talk about. And you mentioned a great point of like Inside Out or Pan's Labyrinth or other ones where they have these coming of age stories where these
they're allegories,
fantastical
right?
elements happen and they kind of come through it. What I struggled with, honestly, the whole time was that it's told from a third person perspective. So it's kind of extraneous and like external from everything
sure.
that.
Yeah. Yep.
But if you really thought about this from a first person perspective of a 10-year-old girl who didn't want to go into this and finds herself thrust in this isn't Alice in Wonderland type of fun. What's happening? Like,
no, I get the comparison, but it's not
it's
fun.
not.
Right. Yeah.
Her parents in front of her are transformed into pigs. And all of a sudden she's told, like, you will not remember them or your entire life if you don't follow me. Nothing
eat some food.
Eat some food, random kid. And then don't breathe. And you do. And all these things happen. And it would be horrifying and traumatizing, truly, every second of this. Like, I one of the things, like the boy, Haku,
yeah.
She initially trusts him, and then the next day or whatever, she tells the workers that if she acts up, they can boil and eat her. Like, what the frick is that? And then somehow she's fine, stumbling through this insane world. She has a tiny moment that first night where she breaks down.
Yeah.
And then she cries a little bit, and then she wakes the next day, gets dressed. We're like, hey, go find him, gets her shoes back on, and then she leaves.
She leaves.
And,
yes.
But
yeah.
she looks back at those soot ball creatures who just the day before were pawning off their work on her to be a slave in this world. Again, her parents don't like, she just waves, says, hey, see you later.
They're cute.
And what I really get irritated about, and I know I'm like probably sounding too stupid about this, but these characters don't know they're in a movie.
Right.
Like you and me watching it, know it's a movie, so it's
Right.
gonna be fine. But she does not know this. So I was so frustrated watching it where everything about it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
But yet our entry into this world should have some semblance of being from our world. And her reactions are in no way relative to how real people would react to this.
Yeah.
I get it's an allegory, it's fantastic, all these things, but like how she approaches it.
But an
was-
allegory for what is an important question.
Yes, it's worth it if I know what the end result is. Like,
Yep.
truly, like, what is the story of this? Is it love, sacrifice can mean great things, or there's a whole like mucky, evil, like, or not evil, but like gross creature that she saves because
Stink monster?
Yeah, the stink monster. Oh, like, yeah, our pollution of the world is causing problems. Like, they were, I agree, the whole like sticking needles to the wall, she would have like, there was no theme that stood out. But what really, really pissed me off, truly, I was so viscerally pissed off, was she would not be handling this way.
Right.
If she's from our world, coming into it, it would be traumatizing every second where she doesn't know she's going to get out of it. She's running across this pipe above this world where she may fall to her demise. And she's like, do. I was like, I cannot wait for this to be done. I was so, because at least Pan's Labyrinth or Inside Out, they're having normal reactions.
Right.
Like they're dealing with, again, their emotions or this kind of, but they're handling it in a way that real people would. This, I was like, F this movie, every second of it. Yeah. It is the worst movie I've ever seen.
Ever.
That's
All
my
right.
hot take, and I maybe
Wow.
like save it for the verdict. But
There you go.
it's the worst movie I've ever seen.
I'm clenching my cheek. Okay. Well,
No, sorry. Final thing here.
Yeah, you
okay,
got another
so
one. Go ahead.
remember in Dogma,
Oh,
Kevin Smith Dogma,
Yeah. Yep.
where
Yep. Holds up.
totally does, and unfortunately I have to recount it because the digital version isn't out there because of the whole battle with Weinstein, and you can't find it anywhere. So anyway, but Jay, of a Jay and Silent Bob fan or fame, comes out of the church, or sorry, after God comes out of the church, and
Alanis Morissette.
yes, and blows the heads up of the two angels trying to get into heaven, or the demons trying to but fallen angels. And his profanity-laced question session is like, what the F is this S? Who the F are you, lady? Why the F did you hug my head? Why is this broad talking? What the F does that mean? Has everybody just gone nuts? What happened to that guy's head? That, to me, was every second of this movie. I just was like laughing in my head, like out loud, being like, this is like Jay watching this, being like every second of what is happening. I'm so, but to that point, I'm so happy we watched it. Really, this is what I love about the podcast. Of like, I'm forced to watch this in great ways because now I can see it. And if I meet anybody that has a family,
we'll have
whoever,
it in a couple weeks.
Says like, oh, it's the. I'm like, you are insane.
Yeah, explain to me why you think this is a classic film.
It is the worst movie I have ever seen. I would watch Black Swan again before I'd watch this, and I hate Black Swan.
Cinema.
So there you go.
I don't think I would watch it again.
Never. You couldn't pay me
ever
to watch this.
I want to make sure people don't like judge. Like, Miyazaki is great.
Yes,
but this just is not. It's just not a good movie.
No.
Like, it's just, there's no payoff. There's no emotional connection whatsoever.
No.
The random train that just keeps showing up and she just gets tickets to.
No Face?
Yeah. The
Eating,
No Face
consuming,
thing, which
what the
could have been decent, but no, there's nothing.
Watch Princess Mononoke.
Yeah.
And I know I've only seen
Howl's
two.
Moving Castle. Yeah, I agree.
That has a clear story. What do you...
How you doing over there?
That felt really good.
Good.
I actually was really happy when I finished it. I was like, I can't wait to talk about this with you.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping one of us would like love it and the other we could just like go back and forth.
Really?
Like, oh my god, really? You're a moron. And we just like point at each other and yell. But no, I knew we would agree on this one. All right, so with our reactions out of the way so far, that leads us into our next segment that we call The Verdict.
I'm going up there, I'm going to try it, I'm going to let the jury decide.
This is pretty much exactly how it sounds. Each of us takes a minute to put a cap on our reviews. A minute, Tim. Give a rating and whether or not the film holds up 2 decades later. I'll go first because I did see it previously.
Yes, you did.
So, as a white Christian male in his 40s, I have rarely found myself in the position of being in the minority. Yet here we are. While I did find the film to be visually very well done, and the general idea of it to be something fun and unique, you know, like it's an interesting. If you think about it on its surface, you're like, oh, that could be an interesting idea.
Yes.
The execution was not well done, and the emotion was completely lost on me. At no point did I find myself engrossed or even emotionally connected to the story or characters. I have a very hard time understanding why this is considered a classic film and how every time I mention it to someone, they say, oh, I love that movie. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
That is not to say I found it bad. So this is where you and I differ, but I absolutely cannot recommend it to anyone and would certainly make sure this is not someone's first foray into Miyazaki films. Yes, they are universally odd, and that is what makes them unique, but this one just does not stick the landing for me. It does not hold up. I definitely did not like this anywhere near as much as I did the first time around, and I've got Spirited Away at a 2 out of 5. That's where I come in. I know you'll be lower, but I come in 2 out of 5 from a technical achievement standpoint. Still beautiful, still well done. Music was terrible, but I came in at 2 out of 5. What do you got, Tim?
Brace yourselves!
Can't have a 0 because you did already acknowledge that they painted between the lines.
Yes.
So visually, it is very good.
I will say that I don't expect or ask much from artists or creators to say, give me an hour and a half or 2 hours of your time, and I will have it be worth your while.
Sure.
It could be terrible. It could be not fun, whatever it might be. I just expect to have felt like it was worth the time. I may not have, like I mentioned, Black Swan. I didn't like it. I hated it, but I could appreciate what they were going for.
Sure.
Of watching a movie about a woman being psychologically torn apart. Not my bag. I don't like it, but I can appreciate what you're going for. Yes, this was 1 out of 5 for me, only because of the technical execution of the animation.
Yeah.
And it was beautiful. It truly was beautiful.
Yeah.
But from a second to second story and like anything relating to emotion, happy, sad, whatever, I was bored to tears in terms of how awful this movie is. I never want to see it again. If you want to watch it just to have said you can see it, great. Otherwise, you have 2 hours of literally anything else to watch.
Yep.
It is the worst thing I've ever seen in my entire life.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
Especially because, like, there are worse movies to me, but, like, they're meant to be bad.
Yeah. Like, I've never seen The Human Centipede.
No, there you go.
Never.
Right.
But I know what I'm getting into, and I'm
exactly.
going to avoid it.
Yep.
I was expecting an Oscar-winning, highly regarded, well-done movie.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're effing crazy.
Yeah. I bet you like Lilo and Stitch a lot more now.
Absolutely. Yeah, or Ice Age. God, I would have loved to see that again.
Or The Underrated Spirit.
Never seen that.
Stallion of the Cimarron.
Yeah.
Kids would love that.
Oh, the TV show's good.
All right, so we come now to our final segment, which is Quiz Show.
The exciting quiz program, 21.
Where we search for trivia surrounding our subject film and try to stump the other. It sounds like Tim doesn't even want to deal with trivia on this, but I guess, well, do you have a couple? Do you have one? None?
So I will admit, I honestly hated this so much. I said, I don't even give a shit about finding something. But I did, for the sake of our podcasting integrity, I have one.
Okay, I have 3, so I guess I'll go first. Well,
Please do.
Maybe you should go first in case we cross streams.
Let's get out of the way.
Like, I don't want to cross streams and then they take no trivia
Yeah,
from
that's
you.
true. That's true. But, oh, yeah.
All right, what do you got, Tim?
It'd be so worthless.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of it, whatever. Director Hayao Miyazaki is adamant about using hand-drawn animation in his films, setting a specific limit on the amount of computer animation which can be used. Can you guess the maximum percentage he allows to be non-hand-drawn?
I mean, 10%.
Done.
Yeah.
On the dollar. Or exactly, yeah. 10%.
Huh.
Yeah.
I mean, good for him. If you're passionate
And it
about
shows.
keeping the hand drawn, yeah.
I mean, when she's walking through like the field at that moment, you can see it's like or the train
and the fading,
too. Yeah.
I assume the fading is probably CGI.
Yeah. But overall, I agree. I respect that. And that was the extent of what I cared. So I'm excited to see.
Well, I won't ask all 3. I'll ask 2 because one of them's But so Susan Egan, who in this film voices Lynn, the woman who takes in Chihiro as like a sort of sistery, like the
sure, super lovely woman,
right? Is primarily known for her voiceover roles. Those include roles in The Simpsons, Steven Universe, and some live action roles in there as well. However, she would be mainly known for voicing what heroine from a kind of now classic Disney film from 1997?
I did kind of think about... no, it's not.
When you realize it, you'll recognize it. Just that deep, sultry tone.
I don't know her name, but I'm going to guess Hercules.
Yeah, Meg. Yeah,
yes.
Yes, from Hercules.
Yes!
You are correct. There you go.
That does make sense.
Yep, Susan Egan. There you go.
She did sound somewhat familiar.
There you go. Yeah. All right. So next, I even write. I would like to say I'm reading my handwriting, but I'm on a computer. I'm just going blind and old. I don't even talk about that one. I'll ask this next one. So Suzanne Plachette, who voices the witch Yubaba in the English version, is an Emmy-nominated star of the Bob Newhart Show classic. But also had a key role in what 1963 Alfred Hitchcock classic starring Tippi Hedren and Jessica Tandy?
Really?
Yeah. Voice of the main bad guy witch chick who flies and chain smokes like an MFer.
And has a twin that's super nice.
Yeah, super nice twin that randomly shows up out of nowhere.
Oh, a Hitchcock movie with Jessica Tandy.
Tippi Hedren.
I don't know.
Should be your giveaway, because that's like the one.
Vertigo?
No, The Birds.
The Birds. But she plays a bird in this.
Exactly. There you go. All right, I'm not even going to ask the last one. It was just his next, which 2 movies he was nominated after this. Doesn't matter. All right, so that brings us to the end of our happy hour episode on Spirited Away. Do you want to try and answer those questions?
How's Moving Castle?
Yeah, that's one. You'll never get the other one.
And Steaming Pile of Dog Shit.
Yeah, the wind rises. There you go. All right, well, that brings us to the end of our happy hour episode on Spirited Away. If you haven't already, please go back and listen to our previous episodes, all featured on your favorite streaming platform, YouTube, or on our website. And stay tuned for upcoming episodes where we will re-watch another movie from 20 years ago that we will decide later and maybe announce at some point. If you are missing our high fidelity segment, that is a new video segment that is featured all over our online platforms. So go find us even more lists and opinions, because who doesn't want that? Mm-hmm. We want to say thank you for taking the time to listen and for checking that like or subscribe button on your devices. Find us on Twitter at years_beers and on Facebook, or head to 20years4beers.com. This has been 20 Years 4 Beers. My name is Steve.
I'm Tim.
And thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Hey, they drew between the lines. Yeah. Hey, look at that.
Shitting on this awful movie.
Boy, I did not like it at all.
Weird stuff going down.
And maybe about a half a pound of weed.
Don't you question my pride, woman. And I've seen weird stuff.